We had a good question about ENSO forecasting. How are these forecasts made? What are the models that are included in the ENSO forecasting? There's a lot of models that go into this. There's something like 16 dynamical models. There's another 9 statistical models.
Right.
There's all these simulations from these different models that project the temperatures in a particular region in tropical Pacific Ocean. That temperature determines whether or not we call it an El Nino or La Nina or neutral conditions.
And we also make the distinction. There's a dynamical model, which would be these sort of explicit physical equations, mathematical models that are sort of ingesting information and trying to resolve the fluid and thermodynamics of the ocean and the atmosphere. And then there are these statistical models, which would be things like taking past time series and looking for patterns or doing statistical analyses on them. And they both have their strengths and weaknesses. So the idea then is to use all this information with its strengths and weaknesses to try to see if there's some convergence in all of these different models. If they all start to say the same thing, there's some idea that there may be some more certainty or more confidence in it. Or if they all say exactly opposite things, then you are in a situation where you have very little confidence in where the models are going.
Current forecast for El Nino is around 65%, even up a little bit higher for the November, December, January, and December, January, February period. And they tend to forecast these things for 3-month periods.
They did. And the mid-September, the most recent update actually bounced back up again. And so their November, December, January timeframe is a little over 70. This midwinter and then January, February, March is also a little bit over 70. So there's been a little bit of a rebound in the thinking. And again, this is the waffling we've had. A lot of these models, just had this nice expression of warm temperatures in the Pacific Ocean with the expectation that the atmosphere would just fall in line, or looking for some of this atmospheric coordination. And it was always the next 4 weeks, or it was always the next month or something like that, and just never sort of showed up.
So if you look behind the scenes at the sort of spaghetti plot, as they're called, and you look at all 25 of the models, all of them, however, are at least slightly above average.
In years where we're not worried about an El Nino or a La Nina, these models will straddle zero, it's basically ENSO neutral. There's no deviation in the temperatures in that part of the Pacific Ocean. They're all above average, with more of them being up around 1 degree, which doesn't sound like much, and it's not.
Yeah.
It's not a lot, and it'd be a weak, borderline moderate event at best.
Right, so the thresholds are between half a degree and a degree above average in this particular region would be sort of a weak El Nino.
It would be a week, yeah.
And then a degree to 1.5 degrees is a moderate, and then greater than 1.5 is a strong. And there are, a couple models that are, in the moderate range, but most of them are in the weak range, and the average of all of these models is in the weak range.
The clustering of those models right around 1 degree puts you at that borderline moderate. And again, we've talked about in the past with these events is that strength does matter. The stronger the event, if we were looking at a 1.5 degree anomaly or above average temperature here, we'd be a little bit more excited about having a confident wet winter signal coming into the Southwest.
If we come back in a month, if we don't have an El Nino by then, will it not appear, I guess, is the question.
I do think next month. I think the next 30 days is going to be interesting with a lot of things here. The monsoon's wrapping up. The East Pacific is still alive. And El Nino is on our doorstep. So it's going to be an interesting next couple of months.